Seems legit.
Guys, welcome back. Today we are just going to be making some super simple little magnets. Now technically these are not finished, but I'm going to let my child color them in and I'm not sure what they're going to look like afterwards. So I just thought we'd stop here at this step before they get colored in and show you what we're doing. So let's get started. Alright guys, so as you can see, this is a scrap of wood. I have sped this up to like about ×8, just because otherwise we'll be here for a while. So it cut first instead of engraving first, and I usually like to do it the other way around, so that was my fault. But what I did was, to make the Luigi and the King Boo, I actually just went and looked up coloring pages on Google and saved it that way. You obviously can't sell these because it is a licensed print, but they're for my child and it's going to make him very, very happy, so that's just what we did. In a perfect world though, do engrave first and then cut it out, because as you can see it did fall down a little bit, which just changes how far away the laser is from the piece of wood. That's all. And I based it on the high part, not the low part. It wasn't a big deal, but it just will, if you've got really fine details, it will alter your accuracy. As you can also see, it did it individual letters instead of swiping across the whole thing. That doesn't necessarily matter, but usually I like to go all the way across and back. I personally think it feels like it goes faster. Whether it does or not, don't know. But yeah, these were really, really easy. So for the rectangle, for the Jessie made one, I just made a rectangle and then used the radius cutting corner part, which is in light burn, because I always use light burn. And then it just curves the corners for you. So you could have two curved, two straight. I mainly did curves so nobody's going to stab themselves with the edges. Nobody wants to play that game. And yeah, so it went forward and then back, like left to right, right to left. I can fix these in the settings. If you double click on it, you can usually do as a group or as a whole. I just clearly forgot to do that, and that's okay. So my settings today are, for the cutting section, which it did first, I had 100% power for 3 millimeters a second, and I'm pretty sure it was set to 2 passes. And then the fill engrave on top to make all of the actual words and everything, I still had 100% power, and it was on 100 millimeters a second speed. Even though it does recommend that diodes you use minutes to work out your time, I find seconds easier. It's less maths in my head. So I always use seconds and not minutes. But again, that is a personal preference. So this would have gone a lot quicker, I think, if it had have swiped all the way across King Boo left to right and then gone bottom to top. I think that would have been faster. But it does still work. It didn't distort any of the lines or anything, so I'm not worried about that either. It actually lasered really, really well. I do have my safety glasses on. I'd just like to point that out. I actually own like 3 pairs now. My child was wearing a pair as well because he wanted to watch his Luigi getting done. And I mean, that's fine. As long as you wear your safety glasses. We don't need to be burning out our eyes at all. It's just not ideal. So I thought it actually engraved this a bit weird. It kind of did most of the right-hand side, but not all of it, and then just jumped to the other side. I don't know. Another thing I would like to do, because you saw them at the start, they weren't finished. Once my child has coloured them in, probably with texture, I'm then just going to put a couple of coats of clear acrylic, like clear, like spray paint. You could use acrylic, you could use whatever. But I'm going to put clear spray paint so that the texture doesn't come off. And also that the wood doesn't like absorb anything weird. I just kind of want to seal it. So I will do the clear to the front and the back. I just didn't do it yet for fear that he might do something dramatic with them. He might get overly excited with the colouring. It has happened before. Alright, so now that they're lasered, I'm going to take my drill, and I just have like this scrubby brush end that I put into my drill, and I'm just going to take off all of the excess kind of burnt parts I go along all of the edges as well. So you can see me doing the edges here. I also made a welcome sign. You can see that behind here. I've got to put that video up. I haven't done that yet. I was way more excited to be doing these. So I always do the front and then I do the edges. You can also wipe them down with a cloth. Some people wipe them down with alcohol wipes. I mean, whoops. I do that a lot. If you don't hold on to it enough, it will just disappear. I have the drill on like high speed, so it is quite forceful and pushy. It's probably a good way to look at that. But you just want to make sure you get all of the edges. Otherwise, when you touch stuff, it will leave like a black residue all over your hands. Still looks great though. And then I'm just going to take some magnets. So I bought these from Bunnings. You can buy them in like, I think it's a 20 pack and they're pretty cheap. And I'm using liquid nails because I have some available and it will glue everything to everything. If you don't have liquid nails, you could also use E6000 or any other glue that bonds metal and wood. Really, it doesn't necessarily matter. This is just what I have because it does do most things. I also chose to put 2 magnets on the big one because it will be holding up pictures. And if it's on not cardboard, if he's drawn on cardboard, it'll be thicker. So the 2 magnets will just make it a bit stronger. I'm also not too worried about putting these perfectly in the center. It's not like they're so heavy that they're going to topple lopsided or anything like that. So I'm just putting a blob. I put that kind of more to the left there because that's where his backpack is. Always make sure you put a lid on and then you're done.